The TMJ-TMD conundrum is real and has been puzzling the dental and medical professions for decades. This is the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast with Dr. Tony Urbanek, where we'll connect the dots between TMD symptoms and the actual cause. We'll tackle common TMD misconceptions and educate you, the practitioner, about a simple, tested, and proven TMD solution that has already provided relief to thousands of patients, while helping practitioners build an additional source of income free from insurance control. Welcome to this episode of the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast.
Hello to all TMD warriors out there. Welcome and good day. I am Tony Urbanek and this is TMD Demystified. And the topic for today is entitled TMD and Help. TMD and Help. And we're going to cover this hopefully quite thoroughly, hopefully not lengthily, so that I can get several points across. Today's topic, again, as I always do, I gave quite a bit of thought to why and how I'm going to cover this. But I want you to understand that, as always, my intention from the get-go, 10 years ago when I started this project, is to try my best to help people, help the public, help people, help my patients, help my society. I had no idea what I stepped into when I figured out the simplicity of temporomandibular joint disease. And on top of that, how to fix it simply. I had no idea how deep this was. That's been covered before. That is not what I'm going to cover today. What I want to cover today borders on philosophical social responsibility as it relates to help, as it relates to helping others, and as it relates to helping yourself. Both are absolutely valid topics and worth discussion. Again, I had no idea how wide and deep this issue would go when I first started this. I am amazed of what I've discovered and what I've not just technically discovered, what I've technically discovered about the problem in general, what I've discovered about our colleagues who have pretty much done everything they can to avoid the problem, their beliefs about the problem. That's why we entitled this podcast TMD Demystified, because for the most part, 99% of people think that TMD is mystical, unapproachable, can't get figured out. All right, so help in TMD. Well, first of all, as usual, most of my energy is directed toward either monitoring patients or seeing patients myself. In my own practice, as you well know, and is a very large practice on the non-surgical treatment of TMD, and we get between 80 and 100, or on occasion 125 patients per month who are referred into our office with symptoms that the referral source, the referral doctor, thinks may be TMD. And most of the time they're right. I mean, almost all the time they're right, once you do the history and the physical. But the point is that we see a tremendous load of these patients, and because of that, I have the opportunity to listen to hundreds of stories, of histories of these patients every day. And this week and last week is no different. And, when learning about the relationship of all of these symptoms to inflammation within the temporomandibular joint and explaining to the patient, as I've covered many times, how to do that, patients look at me and the remarks are various remarks. One of the most common is, I wish I would have known about this 30 years ago, 25 years ago. I've heard that so often. I heard it yesterday. I hear it certainly weekly, sometimes once a day. because we see 3 to 5 to 9 TMJ consults a day. Sometimes there is no remark. One of the most common experience that I began seeing years and years ago, and it is just as common today as it was 10 years ago, is I will explain to the patient how inflammation within the temporomandibular joint causes these problems, these symptoms, and they realize that they have had 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, some people 40 years of unrecognized symptoms that have been mistreated. They've been on drugs. Maybe they've had some kind of surgery, or maybe they've just experienced constant pain for 20 or 30 years, and the tears flow. I mean, just the tears flow. And it isn't what I've experienced is just the thought that all of those symptoms will be resolved within a relatively short period of time brings tears to their eyes. And I'm at the ready. I have plenty of Kleenex in the room, and I just hand them the Kleenex bottle, and I'll just sit there with them until they feel better and can go on. I don't make this stuff up. I really don't. I wish I did. I wish I didn't have to experience what I experienced with these patients. So as I've said before, I am on a mission, however long it takes, whatever hoops we have to jump. And I'm relying on people like you. If you are watching this podcast, if you are watching this episode, you have some kind of interest in what I'm talking about. But I also know that many of you who are actually network providers are in on our podcasts and watch our podcast routinely. You're advised of each podcast that we publish. And I want to speak directly to you who are already network providers who are not letting your colleagues in your area know about what you can do to solve this problem. You're not marketing it. It's not a dirty word. Marketing is not a dirty word. You're not describing it. You're not getting to your colleagues who misdiagnose it, mistreat it, misdirect it unintentionally. I mean, I don't think any of them do it intentionally. I don't know a doctor who intentionally tries to hurt a patient or do something that they don't think is in the patient's interest. I don't recall any doctor, surgeon, dentist, physician that I've ever met that I thought did that kind of stuff intentionally. They do it unintentionally because they're not aware. And marketing is nothing more than awareness. So let's get back to help. So as a doctor, whether you are already a network provider, and if you're not, I encourage you to consider and become a network provider so that you can help us in our network of doctors throughout the United States and hopefully globally eventually. Help these folks. They deserve the help. They need the help. What I have discovered, what we use, the protocol, the device that has been described 10 different directions in multiple different podcasts in the course. It's all available. And if you learn how to use it, I can promise you that you will get the results that we get and our other network providers get. But the point, getting back to help, is that as a doctor, maybe with some encouragement, you need to enlighten and market and teach other doctors what the symptoms are and what can be done for these patients, because they're not just a few. I maintain, and I will continue to maintain, the 45% of females, and nowhere near the number of males, but a great number of males, have temporomandibular joint symptoms that are misdiagnosed, mistreated, misdirected, but 45% of females have temporomandibular joint symptoms of one kind or another, lesser or greater. But when it gets to the point that they finally can't deal with whatever the symptoms are, they finally ask for help from somebody, from some doctor, even if it's a walk-in clinic, their PCP. If they think it has something to do with the jaw joint, they'll go to their dentist. Many of them have heard the word TMJ. Many of them have had multiple night guards. We talked about that. We talked about the brown bag syndrome, where a patient will come in to see us with a little bag, and they'll shake the bag and they will talk about all of their splints or night guards that have been given to them over the years by multiple doctors, multiple sources. These people deserve help, and it is our responsibility. It is my responsibility. If you're watching it is your responsibility, not just to treat whoever walks in your door. That's nice. That's good, but it's your responsibility to help people who have these symptoms that are not aware that there is help. And you do that through enlightenment, you do that through marketing, and it's the marketing program. We're not going to go through that again, but it is simple. And we work that out, how to get to our medical and dental colleagues to show them that we do have the answer. So help for the unknown, and you're helping your colleagues too, who are misdiagnosed, mistreated, misdirected. They don't want to be involved with misdirecting, mistreating patients, and they are happy to respond to you when the light goes off in their mind that there is a solution and that the solution can be explained, and more importantly, that you get the results. You have the results. No doubt about it, we get the results. And now our independent study that has been based on over 3,000 patients is now finished, complete, and out for peer review and publication. I have the studies, and we're going to talk about certain parts of that study at future episodes. We're going to unpack it and discuss the details of it. I already have brought it out a couple times, but there's much, much more to say about this. There is much, much more to say about patients who have been diagnosed. The big topic is migraines. I mean, everybody that hits this door almost thinks they have migraines, self-diagnosed with migraines, been diagnosed by doctors with migraines, been treated by doctors for migraines with medications and other services that do not have migraine headaches. They have bad headaches coming from inflammation within their temporomandibular joint. So these people, when they realize what's going on, that they've had a misdiagnosis, that they've had treatments for years that have not been effective, like the night guards or like medication that does not affect their pain. There's no way it can if you're treating medication, using medication for migraine headaches, when the simplicity is that it's all about inflammation within the temporomandibular joint. So it is our responsibility, it's our philosophic responsibility and social responsibility to try to help our patients and try to help our colleagues who are not aware of this. And once you are aware of it, once you see it, you cannot see it. Every day, I can't avoid, I can't see when I understand the depth of it, the importance of it, when I understand the emotional and social destruction that this disease plays on patients. I still cannot believe how many people are affected by TMD in our society, in our culture, in our country, and obviously it goes well beyond our borders. I have not dissected that out and traveled there yet. Hopefully in my life, in my career, I'll have time to go beyond the United States. We're working on it. As CEO of the company, I'm working on it diligently and doing the appropriate things on our side to make others aware. But as a doctor, as a dentist, as an oral maxillofacial surgeon, or an orthodontist, which are the three categories that I believe are best suited to treating TMD non-surgically in your own practice, you can and should take the responsibility to make as many doctors in your community aware that these patients have been underserved, undertreated, or not treated, or mistreated. So that is the portion of patient help that I wanted to discuss and really clarify where I'm coming from, where our company's coming from, where I hope you are coming from. I can only try to help you, my colleagues, which is the second portion, what I'd like to say today. What I know about doctors in our current culture, in our current medical legal, medical insurance culture are a couple things. And if anyone would like to dispute me or argue or criticize or make comments, there is an option to do that in this episode, at the end of the episode with this podcast. And I look forward to it. But what I know about my colleagues and even my own practice over the period of years, there are two areas that we would wish we would have that we don't have enough of. Number one is I don't know a doctor who does not want more patients. Number two, I don't know a doctor nowadays. In the old days, I'm old and I went through the golden age of the late 60s and 70s, where doctors had free reign and everything, golden age. But I don't know a doctor who nowadays would not like a niche that was not controlled by insurance, that was a cash service. And now we're getting in the nitty-gritty of the business of this. But as it worked out, unintentionally for sure, it just worked out that way over a period of time, and that is discussed how and why it worked out that way in other episodes and other places. But our device and protocol is not covered by insurance and not going to be covered by insurance in very valid ways. It is a medical device. It has no CPT code, and as I've been told very clearly, will not get a CPT code. It is not a dental device, but you as a dentist are absolutely validly equipped to do this service as a medical device, as a cash-only service. So when it comes to helping you, my colleagues, that I hope are watching this, what transpired here is an opportunity to help yourself in what you need and want in your practice. And I think the transparency in all realms is the most wise and simple thing to do. And so I have no hesitation about anyone who watches this and wants to criticize what I'm saying and what I'm about to say. But in our culture, unfortunately, all of our colleagues, dental and medical, have been squeezed economically tremendously. No one with a degree is going to argue with me about this, I don't think. Squeezed economically by insurance and government systems in our economic attempt to run an independent practice, which are going by the wayside rapidly. And I could talk for several hours on that topic, but I'm not gonna, not now. But the point is, that's happening. That is current present time. Like, open your eyes, confront what's going on, admit it, and then adjust accordingly. Many of my colleagues for years, first on the medical community, my medical colleagues, have been bailing out as rapidly as they can. Unfortunately, big problem. And dentally, one way or another, same thing. The younger people are coming in, and if you have any ability to sell your practice to a corporate organization, or just retire as rapidly as possible. For the most part, that is what's occurring. So what we have here is a dual opportunity to help our patients and help yourself with a extremely successful device, protocol, and service that will bring vast numbers of patients to your practice if you make your colleagues aware that you can do it, if you market it. And we know how to do that. We have our own marketing program that worked out. Is really simple, really inexpensive, and works really well. My own practice is an example. So I feel really good about, of course, helping so many patients in my own practice and helping so many patients through our network providers. But I feel, in my mind, equally as good. I get a great amount of satisfaction knowing that the doctors who use our service, our device, our protocol, and become network providers can build an economic base for their practice and numbers of patients for their practice that they never had before. A cash-only service that is not encumbered or directed or controlled by insurance, and that drives in huge numbers of patients. And of course, a service that is, once you understand it, is very simple to deliver. I mean, the diagnosis is simple, understanding it is simple, and the delivery of the whole service is simple, to the point where you have a satisfied, sometimes overly satisfied patients. They're just thrilled with not having those symptoms. And one way or another, that drives huge numbers of patients into your practice. Those patients that are tremendously satisfied, that have had these symptoms for years, they think you walk on water, they think you're a very special doctor. And if you have other services that are available, as an oral surgeon would have, or an orthodontist would have, or especially a general dentist would have, they drive their family in, they drive themselves in for the dental implant, for the extraction. They talk about it with others. You will have and can build an excessively economic basis, a large economic basis that you wouldn't have had before. And so you're able to help yourself with the solution for TMD. That is why I named this episode TMD and Help. TMD and Help. What once was an enigma and a huge problem that no one understood, now brought into the light of day, and the issues that I have confronted and described as to what actually TMD is, how it works, and how to solve the problem simply. It allows us as providers not only to help the patient in tremendous ways, help our colleagues who aren't going to treat this, our ENT colleagues, our PCP colleagues who see these symptoms every day, don't know what to do with them. And just as important and valuable is to help yourself in your own practice. You should. You are allowed to. You worked really hard to get these degrees, build a practice one way or another, and you should benefit by what you know. So that is my description of TMD and Help. It's coming at the whole problem from more of a philosophical, social responsibility direction. Okay, I think that you can address this problem in a lot of ways. You know, one of the things that I've observed among my colleagues, and especially academic colleagues, is they don't adjust anything in for these kinds of discussions or thoughts. It's academic, it's scientific, it's analytical, cut and dried, and it just stops there. And there's more to it. There's always more to it. There should be more to it. I'm not criticizing, not to criticize my academic colleagues, really, other than just a statement of what is. This is what is. And I have found a need and desire to take it further because I've recognized early years ago when I first fell into this, and that this is such a huge problem, and it goes against the usual and customary thought process. And one of the reasons that I do these podcasts weekly is to bring out these thought processes in front of you, to try to enhance you into thinking that you have other things than just cut and dried, analytical thoughts and processes. Enough said for today. I appreciate always your attention. I will appreciate any comments or criticisms. You're allowed to do that. I look forward to it. And I look forward to our next opportunity to discuss another topic having to do with TMD Demystified. I am Tony Urbanek, and I look forward to speaking with you again.